Hi, my name's Lisa and I'm a psychologist and run the Sunshine Coast Post-Natal Depression Centre. And I've asked some of our women who have experienced postnatal depression and or anxiety to come along and have a chat today about their experience and the ways that they recovered from postnatal depression. So the main thing, the message that I would like to get across to anyone that is experiencing postnatal depression is that you will recover. But you need to reach out and get some help and to recognise the symptoms of postnatal depression. So some of those symptoms may be that you've been feeling really sad or really worried and anxious or irritable. You may not feel that you can cope with everyday life and feel overwhelmed just with the normal tasks that you used to be able to do. You may find it difficult to sleep and to eat and also be withdrawing from your friends and family. If you have been feeling like that for the past 2 weeks, then I really encourage you to reach out and get some help. So I invite you to share the stories and the journeys that these women have been through in the hope that they will help you or someone close to you if they're suffering from postnatal depression.
I didn't ever think I would experience this, ever. I like to be organised, I have a Christian faith, I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I never would have even thought that I would experience something like this.
I had all these expectations of what motherhood was going to be and that I was going to love George and have all these, this fireworks of feelings.
Yes.
And when it wasn't like that, I was devastated because I'd wanted a little baby for so long.
Right.
And I was just, oh my God, how can I feel like this?
I had a build-up of previous grief, of losing my father and losing babies, and I never got any help. And then when I had lost another little one and didn't get help, I got a little bit of help, just some professional help with the psychiatrist at the hospital, and then thought, I'm okay. I'll be okay if I have another baby. So I went back and I had another little girl, and then after that, it was about 8 weeks afterwards that I realised I was being unreasonable in my thoughts, lacked motivation. The things that used to make me feel good weren't working.
I knew that I was at risk of getting postnatal depression because my mum has bipolar disorder and so does my sister. So I knew that one of the factors to getting postnatal depression was a family history of mental illness, and I was pretty determined not to get it. I was exercising and eating well and pretty much convinced myself that it wasn't going to happen to me, and I think that was one of the reasons it took me a little while to admit to it, and I think even when I'd been diagnosed with it, I still wasn't admitting to it.
I just didn't feel myself, and I couldn't actually work out what was going on, and I remember writing a list of, this is not me, this is not the normal Alicia, and my list was eating constantly, nightmares or daydreaming about dramas, thoughts that this is not what I imagined, not good enough to do this. I had a fear to be out in public. Small tasks seemed huge and overwhelming.
I started feeling very anxious, and I got home and was expecting everything to be lovely and to be in love with little George, and it wasn't like that at all. I was so scared. I was having lots of yucky thoughts about him and just wanting to run away, and that was sort of the second day that I was home.
After I came home from having a baby, I cried, and every time the baby cried, I cried. So I wasn't enjoying being a mum, so I had to go and look for help, and that's what I did.
Lack of interest in sex, no interest in sex at all. I was waking up in the middle of the night and not getting back to sleep. I wasn't really leaving the house. I didn't really have we've just moved up to the Sunshine Coast from the Gold Coast, so away from my family and friends and that type of thing. But I didn't really know anyone up here, but I didn't really want to get to know anyone up here. It was pretty isolated, yeah.
And it is a big deal going from being independent, you know, getting in your car, going to work, doing your work, coming home, to being at home all the time with someone who always wants you. And my baby was not the, you know, textbook baby of has a feed, has a little play and goes to sleep. My baby was quite unsettled, and she didn't sleep very much. So
I felt quite upset when people told me that I looked as if I was coping, as if, and then I sort of felt like making a joke about it. Oh yeah, I've got the makeup on, of course I'm coping, sort of thing, but I wasn't coping.
So I was being very unreasonable. The pain, some days that I was carrying emotional pain, it was so deep I could barely breathe. And I remember saying to my husband, I'm scared of my thoughts. I don't want to live. I want to die, I need help. And so it was just acknowledging, okay, so this is not who you normally are. This is not who you are, these are not your thoughts. And I remember the day going, if I did not have these thoughts, what would I do? What action would I take if I didn't have these thoughts? And that was my step to getting well.
And then when I started doing research, those things seemed to come up as postnatal depression sort of symptoms.
And so did you self-diagnose, or did somebody help you? Or
I don't like asking for help, so I tried fixing myself. I tried working out what was wrong with me myself, and I tried fixing myself, and I realised I couldn't do that. So it took a long time to actually admit I needed some help.
so how did you get help once you realised there was something really wrong?
Yeah, well, I went to the GP and he pointed me in the direction of Lisa Lindley and the support group there, and I went along, and that was the most terrifying experience ever. But it was really good. As soon as I walked in, it was so relaxing, and just meeting other women in that same situation and forcing myself to meet other people, and we're still friends to this day, you know.
Definitely seeing a psychologist, and I would actually say there's stuff that I've learnt in going to those sessions that even if I didn't have postnatal depression, I think they'd be so helpful in life anyway to, you know, just check how you're thinking and things like that. Exercise was huge for me, just the endorphins and doing something that was actually for yourself as well.
Yep. I went and saw my GP quite soon on in the piece, and he put me onto an anti-anxiety drug because I was having those panic attacks, those anxiety attacks. I wasn't sleeping, which of course was just contributing to the sort of the downfall.
Talking to other people, going to mothers groups, and not being alone. That's a big one, don't be alone.
One of the biggest things for me was listening to other women who were having exactly the same feelings and had exactly the same thoughts that I had, and I thought, okay, this is not great, but this isn't as bad as I thought. I'm not a terrible person, I'm not a complete failure.
Probably the one phrase that has stuck out in my mind, and I wrote it out and put it on my bathroom mirror, said, self-care is not selfish. Look after yourself to look after your baby.
When I was having stinky thinking, I stopped it. Thought, okay, you're being silly, this isn't real. Change your thinking and let's move on from that. Be positive. You can do this.
Don't read too many books. Just try to be in tune with your baby. Try to enjoy it. And if you do have problems, ask for help. Don't do it on your own.
Gather people around you, I guess, to let people in and to not think, to know that it's going to be hard and you don't have to do it on your own would be my main thing.
You've got to let a few things go. It took me years to let housework go you've just got to let things go, and you've got to do as much as you can to get sleep, and you've got to be honest with yourself and know that there are people that you can talk to. Don't be shy. Don't wait for it to get so bad that your marriage is falling apart and your health is completely off the rails before you ask for help.
And I think if you have those symptoms and you're aware that, you know, it's at least 1 in 5 people that can experience this or do experience it, then have the courage to actually ask for some help and don't suffer by yourself. And there's a real stigma that goes with postnatal depression, and I think that keeps someone silenced in this sort of invisible prison that you experience. So I think try and find the courage to let somebody know and ask for the help.
So Lisa, obviously not everybody can access you and your services directly, but what do you recommend they do if they're feeling the same sort of symptoms themselves, or if it's a friend or family member, what can they recommend?
If you are feeling any of these symptoms, or you've noticed that your partner or your daughter or your sister or friend is experiencing any of these symptoms after the birth of the baby, I really encourage you to get help. That's the most important thing I think that we've heard from the women today, is the importance of accepting that something is not quite right and that you need to go and get some help, and to overcome that stigma and that worry and shame associated with postnatal depression. So I would really encourage women first to go and see their doctor or their child health nurse and to talk about what they're feeling, and then your doctor will probably refer you to see a psychologist if they think that's appropriate. Or they might talk about medication. If the depression or anxiety is at a severe level, then they would encourage you to at least consider antidepressants, which have been very beneficial. The other thing, is psychological counselling, and also a postnatal depression support group where you're having some instruction and some assistance from a psychologist and mixing with other women in the group who are also experiencing postnatal depression.
What if you're feeling completely overwhelmed and debilitated and you can't even pick up the phone, perhaps to ask for that help?
Yeah, so there will be women out there that are experiencing really quite severe anxiety and depression and are unable to lift up the phone and ask for help. And I would encourage you as a friend or a partner to do that. Go with your partner to the first appointment to the doctors, because it really is a team approach that we need for recovery. And if there is a woman out there that is feeling like they might hurt themselves or wants to end their life, then we really can't afford to wait, and you might need to ring the local hospital, as soon as possible. There's also telephone counselling services out there for women who feel that they couldn't go and approach anybody. If you think that it is urgent though, I really encourage you to ring your doctor or ring your hospital.